My work has no future at all. I know that. A few years, of course my things will mean nothing. Andy Warhol once said that. Well, I think he was wrong. What is Andy Warhol's legacy, and why has he been a household name for over 40 years? Let's begin by going back to where it all began. Andy Warhol was born Andrew Warhola on August 6 of 1928 to Julia and Andrzej Warhola. He grew up in the industrial slums of Pittsburgh as his parents were Czechoslovakian immigrants. Warhol wasn't the healthiest child, as he suffered from a nervous system disease, which led him to become somewhat of a hypochondriac. Because he was frequently sick at home, he became very close to his mother and distant with his classmates, who thought of him as an outcast. Warhol would draw, listen to the radio, and collect pictures of movie stars when bedridden. During that time, he began his fixation on Hollywood. At age 16, he was admitted to the Carnegie Institute of Technology to study art. He was the first one in his family to go to college. After graduating in 1949, Andy Warhol went to New York to pursue art. He immediately jumped into the commercial art scene, and from the 1950s to the 1960s, he did very well doing a variety of commercial art projects and book and magazine illustrations. During this time, the dominant force of the art world was abstract expressionism, but that was soon to change. In the late 1950s, pop art began to gain momentum in England and America, and soon after was a very followed movement. Who was at the center of all this? Mr. Andy Warhol. This visual art movement aimed to attract a broad audience and rebelled against the idea of a high culture. It is widely seen as a reaction to the ideas of abstract expressionism and refers more to the attitude that leads the art itself than the art. Andy Warhol's works shifted the entire attitude of the art world. His signature silk screens and soup cans contributed to defining an entire artistic movement, making him the Prince of Pop. He used objects from the commercial and the daily world and made a definite statement about the consumer-driven society. Warhol wasn't your average painter. He produced and directed many films, published his own books, and backed a rock music band, as well as organizing a series of multimedia events. And that's not even all that I could list. Andy Warhol was one of the most influential and iconic artists of the 20th century because he changed the way that images are seen. He did that through combining art and popular culture. Warhol was a multi-talented artist that revised the idea of what it is to be an artist. His legacy will go on forever through inspiring artists to come. Through the wishes of his will, the Andy Warhol Foundation was created, which helps emerging artists and is one of the largest grant-giving organizations for visual arts in the United States.